Well, hello, I'm Chris, and this is my 68 through 72 Chevelle rear control arm restoration and boxing video. So in this video, what we're doing is we're trying to create our own boxed factory style lower control arms, and we're also going to be doing the upper ones. But what that meant was that these cars had a factory rear sway bar option, and if you ordered it with the rear sway bar, these are just regular ones. The factory would put an insert in there, weld it, but it does box them and it does make them a little more rigid. This is a pretty fun project because even if you decide that this isn't what you want, you can always take this off your car and get your money's worth for it, because they sell the ones already boxed for $220, I believe. You can get these for $39 a pair. These will have to be welded in, so this project may not be for everybody. So the uppers were never boxed from the factory. They don't sell any kind of kit for them. You can go on the internet and see people that box them. So that's what we're gonna do. Give you an idea how I do it. We take a 16 gauge steel, the same steel as the inserts. We're gonna try to cut a piece somewhere like that. We're gonna copy it and make it look as neat as this one, weld it the same style, and we'll have some boxed upper and lower control arms at the end. So all my videos are meant to be used as a guide only. We're going to go over all the steps, show you what it really takes to get these from looking like this to looking like brand new parts at the end. First thing we got to do is get these bushings out. Now there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. I have another video I just uploaded about different ways and what can go wrong and what to look for. But I'm going to demonstrate the fastest, easiest, best, and my favorite way. I'll be doing this for the rest of my life, and it's the drill method. We're going to try to edit as little of this out so you can see exactly how long it takes me to get one of these out. Okay, it nicks it a little bit, but it's not gonna hurt nothing. Just gonna show a little bit of the sandblasting. So you get the idea, we just keep going over them until we get them perfect. So we'll finish this up. Okay, so I'm doing them at different times because there's a front and a back. And we didn't sandblast the outside of this because we know that the bushings were pressed in this way, so the oval is to the back. We just kind of want to keep them in the same. I don't think it matters if you mix them up or not, but that's why we're going to do one so that we don't mix these two up. So we got one outside, one inside sandblasted. We got this sandblasted. We're going to prime all this. I thought I had some weld through primer. We're just going to use some cheap red oxide primer. It doesn't really matter. So we just got through sandblasting, so that's how come I primed them like that. So let's wait for that to dry. Okay, so we're doing it like this so we don't mix things up. There's a front and a back. Circle on the front, oval on the back. The bushings hammer in towards the driver's side. Sway bar bolts right here, sway bar right here. So we're doing this so we don't put our insert in backwards. It's real easy to put them in backwards, so So I'm just going to center these evenly from the center of the bushing. So I got about 2 1/4 on each side. Mark it. Okay, now these will need to be put on a vise and kind of straightened out and test fit in there. I've already done that to that one, so I don't have to, but kind of see how it's kind of crooked. So just pay attention to stuff like that because you want this to look real neat. So we got that an idea. We got our marks. Tap it in place. Okay, marks look good. So just kind of play with it. Get this as close as you can. We're going to do like a little lap weld right there. Squish down real close to that. We're going to sandblast it or wire wheel it or something. Get that clean and ready to weld. Okay, so this is a DIY video and we're going to be using a cheap welder. It's a cheap welder, but I got this at a professional welding store about 10 or 12 years ago for about $130. And about the only thing it can weld is stuff like this. So we're going to be using a little 1/16 inch rod. They're cut in half because they're real flimsy, but just so you know what we're welding it with. Everything's sandblasted. Now the way that these were welded, they had a weld right there, and then 2 welds right there, and then 3. Okay, see, if you're a DIY guy and you don't weld for a living, don't worry about your welds. See the first one? See the second one? You're tuning this machine. We didn't have time to set up a test piece or anything. We're gonna grind it off and re-weld it, and we're gonna fix those 2 little ends. But there's a big problem here because you have a thicker gauge steel and a thin gauge insert. So that's why I showed you those ugly welds. Don't worry about it, it's gonna happen. But I had to grind them off. I swear I spent about like an hour, probably an hour, going back and trying to get these welds right. Had to redo them. And they look fine. They've been kind of ground down a little bit, but don't worry about your welds, how they look too much. You can, we're gonna grind them down a little bit more. But just make sure they penetrate like that. See, we haven't sandblasted in here, but you can kind of see how they've all went through. That's more important than the way they look. I never see welders with sandblasters. I have a sandblaster right next to me to clean this stuff up real easy. So let's go ahead and go through the process of just sanding this down and sandblasting and get it ready. Alright, so we're just going to polish it up with 80. Try to get it smooth, knock any little spatter off. Sandblasting works real good to clean it up. Alright, so that's about the only time I ever use that, is just to kind of smooth the welds off, because those things are like $8. Okay, so now I'm going to give you an idea on how to mark the holes for the sway bar. So we don't have a sway bar. The reason I'm showing you this is because you want the sway bar in the same place on both sides. So what we're trying to do, real simple, we're trying to get a stationary point to make a measurement, and then we're going to make this on both of them, so we know exactly where that first bolt for that sway bar is. So from the edge of that, we're going to eyeball to the center. Alright, so we got this straight side of this piece of steel. We're going to get us a straight line using these 2. Now the 3 15/16. So whenever you're trying to get some pretty close exact measurements, you have to use a center punch. Always do a pilot hole, lubricate it if you can. We're going to step it up to a 1/4 inch hole. Okay, now we're going to do a 3/8 hole, and I'm pretty sure this drill bit's dull, so just showing you that so you know how to drill your first hole, so it's exactly the same on both sides. And it lines up, it looks good, but we need our sway bar shim at least. I don't have one to drill the second hole, but see how it's in the center. Everything looks right. Okay, so we got all that sanded smooth. That's ready to go. That looks good. hole drilled. Now we're just going to finish sandblasting this up and get them ready for paint. Okay, so we're also going to box the top. They don't sell an insert for these. They never box these from the factory. So we just have to take some sheet metal. This is the same gauge as the inserts, 16 gauge for the lower control arms. So what we want is we're just going to cut a little flat piece, and we just want it to go about right there to right there. Okay, so this is something that you may end up having to go back and trim a little bit more, but I'm pretty confident that that's going to be good. About right there. It looks like we should kind of come out here a little bit. So we're just going to cut that out with the Sten cutting discs, 4.5-inch grinder. I don't like cutting this with those, what do they call, like aircraft snips or whatever, because it does kind of bend this light gauge steel a little bit, kind of warps it. Cutting it like this will keep it straight. Okay. All right, got that kind of close. So I have the other one right here, and we're gonna try to make it look as close to this one as possible, like notching it like that. See how this is in the middle? We're gonna try to get it just in the middle like that. So let's try to shape this thing. Okay, so now we're gonna be trimming the edges down and make it fit perfect with this grinding disc. All right, so we got our piece ready, sandblasted. We got our marks. Let's just square it up. We're gonna start welding it. We're not even gonna tack it. We're just gonna weld the damn thing. Okay, so we got this piece done. We're gonna finish sandblasting it up, and we're gonna go to paint them. So we have both of these thoroughly sandblasted inside and outside, and a red oxide primer. All right, we're gonna paint them. So give them 3 coats, every coat just a little bit heavier. So I got them sprayed. A little tip or advice is, if you have pits on your control arms like these, do not paint them gloss black, or they're gonna look just real ugly. Kind of like if you ever seen somebody that pour 15s parts like this, and they're like glossy, but they just don't look right. So I actually had to go back and spray them with a semi-gloss to give them a look like that. That's a correct look, and it turned out real nice. So we're getting ready to put the bushings in. If you painted them and primed them, you're gonna have to get this clean again. So we're just taking a little sanding thing, however you do it, it doesn't matter. Don't take too much off. And believe it or not, just that little bit of paint right there, whenever you're putting your bushing in, especially if you're pressing it, it can actually hang up and start crushing your control arm. So get all that paint off. For the bushings, we're using these. These are probably the best you can buy. These are very expensive. They were $40 for 2, so you need 8 to do this whole thing, so that's a lot of money right there. But that's the part number. So to get the bushing in, you can hammer it or press it in, either one works. We're gonna hammer it in. So this is a 2-inch nipple and 2-inch thread protector. This is not a coupling. So we're just trying to put this so it doesn't scratch the paint off. Now the bushings only go in one way. So lubricate them, just some WD-40. Now this one fits around it. Well, these will start to rust, so. Okay, so back in May 2015 when I started on this car, that was the first project I did, was boxing the control arms. But I didn't know they were welded like that, and I welded them all the way. But that just looks so much better. And then on the upper ones, I didn't cut those little triangles, and I welded this piece all the way. You look on the internet and people weld it all the way around. And I started thinking about that, and I said, well, how come the factory didn't do that? The factory could have easily, you know, brought them out here and wrapped them around. They didn't do that, and these, they've held up all this time. So that's how come I came up with the idea to do them like that. So it looks like actual set. You know, it could have possibly came from the factory like that. The more you look at them, the more it really does seem like that. And that car also has polyurethane bushings on it and Lakewood ladder bar. So that rear end is just gonna stay straight, and it'll probably just move up about 1 inch up or down. Real stiff rear end. And I hope I never get tired of it. But if I do, that's why I'm having this ready, so I can just go buy a sway bar and a shim kit and go throw this on my car. You notice we have rubber bushings. So I'm just trying to tell you that this is a real fun project. It's going to stiffen up that body roll just a little bit. I don't really know yet. But before you go out and buy all your fancy stuff, at least try this out. And if you don't like it, you think seriously that nobody would buy that from you? So that's pretty much it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.